Today's topic is partnered sexuality, specifically how we can move from pressure and performance into practice and play. So often, religious cultures, especially Mormonism, but many others too, teach us that sex is supposed to just happen. If you're married, righteous, or in love, it will just be an organic process. You don't need education, you don't need experimentation, and you definitely don't need permission from yourself. The idea is, if you're doing it the right way, it will magically somehow work. But here's the truth. Sex is a skill set. Like cooking, dancing, learning a new language, it takes time, experimentation, and yes, practice. The good news is practice doesn't have to feel like homework. It can feel like play. And that's what I want to walk you through today using my pep talk model of permission, education, and practice. I'm the sex Mormon therapist with the emphasis on X. I'm a certified sex therapist here to help you get the information we never got at church, unlearn all the shame we did get at church, and reconnect with your pleasure, because pleasure is not a sin. Make sure to subscribe if you're looking for real talk, tips, and tricks to better sex and relationships. First, let's talk about permission. For many of us who come from high-demand religions, permission was something granted or denied by authority figures, bishops, pastors, church manuals, scriptures, parents. We were taught that our bodies, desires, and behaviors needed outside approval. Many of us grew up with shame-based sexual messaging and education. Sex was dangerous, sinful, or only acceptable in very narrow conditions. That kind of conditioning does not just disappear after you get married or leave your religion. It lingers in the bedroom. When I first started my blog, The Mormon Therapist, I would constantly get questions like, is oral sex okay? Is watching pornography as a couple okay? Is fantasizing about somebody else okay? People weren't asking because they didn't know what felt good to them. They were asking because they needed an authority to say, yes, that's allowed. I want us to shift that dynamic completely. Instead of outsourcing your permission to a religious leader, a therapist, or even me, I want you to give yourself permission. Permission to explore what feels good, permission to experiment with your partner, and permission to be human. Of course, when you've been trained in a high-demand system, that's a lot easier said than done. You've been taught to fear your own judgment, to distrust your body, to doubt your desires. That's why this first step of permission is so powerful. It's truly a reclamation. Giving yourself permission means reframing sex as something to enjoy, learn from, and even be a little awkward with. Just like when you learn to drive a car. Remember stalling out, jerking the wheel? Nobody expects mastery on day one. Give each other permission to experiment if you're partnered, permission to laugh, permission to say, let's try that again differently, permission to notice things like, hey, that didn't feel good for me, let's stop. And very importantly, permission to not get it perfect. If you or your partner start feeling performance pressure, such as, oh, I have to orgasm, or, ooh, I have to get hard, or, ooh, I have to last longer than I'm lasting, just stop, breathe, and remind yourselves we're practicing, not performing. Next comes education. In high-demand religions, education about sex was usually something along the lines of don't do it, don't think about it, don't even ask about it. And then once you marry, magically you're supposed to know how to do everything. That's like being told never to touch a piano until your wedding night and then being expected to play a concert. Education can look like reading an evidence-based book together. Come as you are, The Guide to Getting It On, She Comes First. Pick something that's evidence-based. Maybe watching educational erotic material together to spark ideas, talking with a sex therapist, or simply asking your partner, what feels good? What pressure or speed works for you as I touch certain parts of your body? It also means unlearning misinformation. For example, many of us were taught that penetrative sex alone should lead to orgasm for women. The science tells us that's rarely the case. Most vulva owners need clitoral stimulation. That's not about being broken, that's just biology. Education is both head knowledge and body knowledge. In high-demand systems, your body often felt like an enemy. But through education, you relearn how to listen to your body as a partner, not an adversary. Finally, let's talk about practice. This is where the rubber meets the road, or should I say where the bodies meet the bed. One of the biggest harms of high-demand religion is the idea that sex should just work if you're following the rules. So when it doesn't, couples blame themselves or each other. Instead of blaming yourselves, I want you to reframe sexual encounters as practice and learn how to blame systems that left you unskilled and unprepared for sexual negotiation. I want you to reframe sexual encounters from we have to perform to we're practicing a skill together. Just like tennis partners, rally back and forth, not keeping score every time, you and your partner can approach sex with curiosity and repetition. Here's just a few ideas. You can have a theme night. One night just practice kissing, another practice oral techniques, another touch without the goal of orgasm. Another idea would be time-limited containers, like try a 20-minute session with no expectation to finish. Just explore. You can Google Sensate Focus and start thinking about ways that you can take turns touching each other slowly without rushing and noticing sensations. There's quite a bit of skill to doing Sensate Focus. I usually like to explain this to my couples quite a bit before I just give them the exercise, but there are things that you can pick up on just from doing some research. Another idea would be just playful experiments, like how about we blindfold one partner and maybe use different textures like silk or feathers or ice cubes and see how the body responds. The shift here is from we need to get this right to we're playing together. And let's be honest, those of us coming out of religious systems, we often struggle with the idea of play. We were trained to take everything pretty seriously or profound, even sex. And even when religion tries to be sex positive, it will use terms like sex is sacred, sex is holy, or bonding of a holy union, which that's all fine and dandy, but none of it sounds very playful, carefree, or sexy. Play may feel indulgent or even sinful. So practicing playfulness is actually part of healing. And the more we practice, the easier and more natural it becomes. Just like learning a language, sex gets more fluent with repetition. Remember, partnered sexuality deepens when you use the pep talk model. Permission, stop outsourcing approval, claim your own authority. Education, learn the real science of your body and your partner's. And practice, treat sex as skill building play, not performance. For those of us who grew up in high demand religion, this is not just about sex. It's about reclaiming autonomy, rebuilding trust in our bodies, and creating connection that is chosen rather than coerced. And that is the true path to intimacy. I'd love to hear from you. What's coming up for you as I talk about these concepts? How have you claimed your own authority, or how are you doing that? Are you in the process of claiming your own authority? Have you thought about performance-based sexuality versus pleasure-focused sexuality? What about our egos? Can we take being curious, playful, and awkward as we get better at our sexual skill sets, or do we feel like we already have to have it all figured out? If you enjoy my content and want to go deeper, go sign up for my newsletter at natashahelfer.com. You'll get a free copy of my current download full of juicy information. And remember to ring my bell and subscribe. I give you full consent.